Size X, Wavy. Wavy is a watery synth song with not all that many layers of stuff to listen to. The vocals all have a kind of echoey filter on top of them, which I don't feel like has been incorporated very well. The mixing is kind of off, like the vocals have just been plopped on top of the instrumental rather than really becoming part of the song, if that makes sense. Aside from that, the song is a pretty generic dance track that's somewhat reminiscent of the tropical house genre that took over the mid-2010s. It's not god-awful, it's just not really all that good. The B-side, Remember, is a pop ballad with the same issues that plague the title track: generic composition and poor mixing. It doesn't even have the energy of Wavy that made that song somewhat bearable. I don't like being mean to songs from companies with fewer resources and all of that, but this just wasn't good in my opinion. I hope the members had a good time performing this at least. Woosung, 4444, or 4444, or 4444, I don't know. Let's just start with the songs. Paper Cuts makes good use of echoey vocal effects, with and without an instrumental to back them up, in order to create a dreamy, weightless feeling. It's nice enough to listen to, but lyrically and sonically it does feel like something that I've heard more than a couple of times when I was into, like, indie pop rock for a while. I don't know how much I'd listen to this song on its own, but as an album intro, I think it does a decent enough job. Before We Die also has a slightly floaty feeling, with a distant electronic guitar riff combining with synths as the main hook of the instrumental. The change to a kind of electronic club banger was kind of a surprise. I thought this would be more like a modern U2 song or something, but I guess it matches some of the material on Woosung's last studio album as well as what the Rose have been doing recently. I'm not that into this like Coldplay style stadium club music, if I'm being honest, so this song isn't really doing anything for me. The Day That I Died I do really like though. It's an earnest ballad detailing his regret at a failed relationship with vivid dramatic lyricism and a more minimal instrumental. For the song's duration, you're stuck with Woosung and his emotions, and you're forced to feel his pain. It's very well made, and it feels honest. 44, Forget Forever, is a return to the grand EDM sound from Before We Die, but I think it does a better job of building up, with delicate layers of vocal harmonies and synths stacking up on top of each other. It also lacks the more generic feeling drop that's present in Before We Die. Instead, it chooses to linger on the build-up and let the listener marinate in the song's atmosphere. I still don't really care for the genre, but I appreciate the song a little bit more than I appreciate others in the style. Never Let Go is very bassy. It almost feels like the song is trying to bury itself into my soul and sync with my heartbeat. Structurally, it feels a little bit more half-baked than some of the other songs, but I like the fundamental idea behind its composition, so I'm willing to give that a pass. Found You combines the attempt at earnest emotion from Day That I Died with the EDM sound that permeates at the end of the album. Since the song is a love song rather than a breakup track like The Day That I Died, I feel like some of the attempts at earnest lyricism feel a bit more trite, more cheesy, especially when the melodramatic synth comes bursting in. Like, I don't know, it just feels kind of weird. Happy Alone is a nice change of pace for the album. It's mostly acoustic, with Woosung's vocals sounding like they're being recorded from across the room in some like hangout section with friends. It gives the song a lot of charm and warmth that I think was desperately lacking on the album. B.I.'s voice is also really nice to hear. He's got a similar rough quality to Woosung, but a tangier tone that contrasts with the smokiness that's become Woosung's signature. I just really like the song a lot overall. And then finally, Let There Be Light has a similar dreamy feeling as the opening song, with synths and echoey vocals. The song has a slightly more frantic beat behind Woosung's vocals that disappears when Bolfor appears with her angelic singing to calm everything down. There's a good push and pull in this song that makes it more generic hook a bit more forgivable. Overall, I think this might be my least favorite project from Woosung as a soloist. I'm just not that big into this, I think of it as a Coldplay style of EDM. I think it just does not work well with the earnest emotions that it feels like Woosung is trying to convey. There's definitely some stronger moments on this album, but as a whole, I'm not going to be giving it another listen anytime soon. 82 Major, X82. I honestly always feel kind of awkward reviewing this kind of release because I can tell that because I'm just not that into hip-hop, I have a hard time actually assessing whether or not this release is good, because my main complaints are I wish the song was more melodic when the song obviously isn't intended to be that way. So please keep that in mind. Stuck, the title track, is a pretty fun song. The instrumental is mostly bassy and low in pitch, as are the vocals and rap tones of the members. The rap verses were all pretty good, and I like the occasional beat changes incorporated in the song, but I don't really see the song sticking with me. It lacks a particularly distinct chorus that makes the style of song normally more fun. As someone who isn't really that big into hip-hop, I prefer like a catchier chorus, I guess, to get me to listen to a song. So it was overall decent, but clearly not catering to me, which is fine. Like the title track, the first B-side, Thorns, is a hip-hop song with a bass-heavy instrumental. It's got a slightly more distinct chorus and pre-chorus, but the verses aren't quite as good as those in Stuck, and the high-pitched synth that's introduced in the instrumental honestly kind of hurts to listen to, unfortunately. FaceTime is pretty chill and actually more pleasant for me to listen to. The members do some more like sing rapping in the song, which adds a melodic element that I personally prefer. It's still not exactly my style, but it's nice enough, I guess. And then finally, Gossip is a kind of fun song with a nice little synth in the background of the rapping. That one added element means that the song has much less of an empty instrumental than the other songs, which appeals a lot to me. I think the song is fun, it has a lot of attitude, which really suits the members performance-wise. I think it's good, and it's the only song from the mini that I ended up adding to my playlist. B2B, Please Stay. This is a nice ballad. B2B always does a great job vocally, so them delivering in the emotion and technique categories for a ballad is no surprise. Aside from their vocals though, I don't find this song particularly noteworthy. It's a standard K-pop ballad that does a good job showcasing the vocalists and accommodating the rappers. The production is clean, the writing is good, but I just don't think I have the emotional connection to the group necessary to really enjoy this, I guess. Apex, My Girl. My Girl is ultimately very fine. I'm not particularly inspired by this take on a hip-hop R&B track from Apex, if I'm being honest. It's not the kind of thing to get stuck in my head, and there's not enough going on for me to consider it a very good song aside from that. I'd say the best part of the song is the bridge, where they incorporated some nice harmonies. Like, it's not doing anything wrong in terms of production or the composition choices made, and I can see how someone would find it potentially charming. I just don't really like it all that much.
Thought you were an angel, coming my world, but it turns out you just as well. Thought you were an angel.
Woosuk, Angel. I love me some moody, angsty pop rock, and I also really like Woosuk, so I was definitely in the target audience for this song. I like the angry lyricism and the lighter verses, but I think the chorus doesn't quite work for me. It makes sense to get louder and angrier in the chorus, it works well to convey the song's emotions, but I feel like the execution could have been slightly better. There's a lack of depth in the chorus instrumental. It feels like it's mostly just drums and echoey, slightly peaky vocals, which isn't a particularly pleasant combination. If he's going to go for something slightly unpleasant to really get his anger across, good for him. I just don't think that I'll be returning to this song that much. Yoo Taeyang, Hug Me. Hug Me is a sweet acoustic ballad. Taeyang's voice has a lovely color, it's very bright and slightly husky on the song, I'd say, and it stands out on top of the simple instrumental. He's also incredibly expressive, you really feel every emotion he's conveying. The song stays slow and very subtly, gradually builds up in intensity, with a string instrument introduced to the instrumental in the second verse, and added strings added to the second chorus. His singing stays fairly soft the whole time, but it's not like the instrumental gets that much more intense or anything, it's just some added layers to enrich the soundscape. Overall, this was a very lovely listen, even if it's probably not going to be a frequent one based on my own tastes. Dream Note, Joyful Green. Joyful Green is a nice synth dance track that leans heavily into the stylistic elements that defined early 4th gen girl group music. I feel like I've heard this kind of song a million times by now, so I have very little to say about it other than that it's decently nice to listen to, with some pretty moments especially in the pre-chorus, but the overall sound is kind of generic in my opinion. To me, the synth hook in the post-chorus reminds me a bit of reivew title tracks, just in a lowered volume. I can see it being a nice listen to fans for like early 4th gen and late 3rd gen girl groups, but for me it's not doing much. Daimon, Youth Never Die. Zip 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 brings Daimon back to the rougher, more hip-hop influenced music that they released at their debut, and further away from the slightly softer, more youthful sound that Girls Love Boys Love Girls had. With Dem joins on the song's credit list, the song does a lot of fun things, traveling through its different distinct sections with more abrupt transitions and not really caring about whether or not the listener can keep up. The song has its synth instrumentals combined with a rougher beat and more intense vocals and chanting in a way that feels kind of incongruous, but still somehow works to an extent. I also didn't expect the song to go into a full string-based bridge, but after everything else that it put me through, I'm not all that surprised. Among Diamond's songs and among songs produced by Dem Joins, Zip 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 isn't exactly one of my favorites, but I like how adventurous it was. The B-side, Heart Balloon, is a little bit less interesting, I guess. It's considerably more calm than the title track, with softer vocals behind synths and guitars to create a sweet, sentimental sound. It's a lot more normal, I'd say, but it is also easier to listen to in my opinion. TIOT, The Long Season. The Long Season is a sweet pop rock song. There's really not that much to say about it. I feel like I discussed about 50 songs of this coming-of-age ending credit style last month, and my ability to describe them in remotely unique ways has run dry. The members sound good, the mixing is fine, it's got energy, woohoo. I'm getting tired of listening to this type of song at the moment, but I would probably still sing along to it at a concert or something. 17. Spill the Feels. I do have thoughts on this, but I think it would be better if I address them once I've gone through the whole track list. So we'll start with Eyes on Me, which should have been the title track in my opinion. It's a really fun house track, which I don't think is a genre that 17 have explored all that much. It gives the song a unique, sleek touch to stand out in their discography, and the song is super catchy and nice to listen and groove to. Eyes on Me changes its composition up a little bit for the different choruses, which keeps the listener on their toes a bit. Overall, it is clearly a much better song than Love Money Fame, and it probably would have ended up being one of my favorite 17 title tracks from recent years had it been the title track. As for the actual title track, I find myself questioning who Love Money Fame was made for. It's a very standard, dare I say boring take on like a hip-hop / dance track, with minimal production, a slower pace, and some dude that no one likes shouting at the start. The song has a hook, but not one that's particularly good at its job of catching my attention, so I don't even know what's going on here. I think the most that I can say for the song is that I like the members' delivery of the verses. Aside from that, there's very little in the song that appeals to me. It's the kind of schlock that you have to listen to on a loop if you work in retail, and it's easily my least favorite title track of theirs. I wish that I felt slightly less negatively about the last single that they recorded before the chaotic enlistment period of their career begins, but in order to do that, this would have had to been like a good song, which I think it fundamentally isn't. This isn't a song made by anyone because they want to make good music. This is a song made because it's going to make people money, and you can tell. And then back to the B-sides. 1 to 13 is the kind of sentimental song that a K-pop group releases before a turbulent time is about to begin, so it makes sense that it's included on this album. Sound-wise, it's not all too interesting, with a standard trap beat and synth combination that you hear in a lot of B-sides, but the lyrics with references to their past releases are cute enough, I guess. I don't think I would be listening to this song if I didn't like the members as much as I do, though. Candy, the vocal team track, is a nice ballad, the kind of style that you might hear at a late-night fancy restaurant or something. The members can obviously pull off a vocal number like this really well, and the overall sound of the song, though not really my style, is also pretty nice. The performance unit consistently has my favorite songs on 17's albums, and Rain is no exception. It's a disco trap track with a lot of depth, which just always hits for me. I feel like I'm submerged underwater when I listen to the song. It's so gorgeous, so atmospheric, and the members all do a great job of acting like sirens and pulling me further into the song's depths. Finally, Water, the hip-hop team song, is an anchor-sounding hip-hop song with intense synth and beat behind the strong delivery from the guys. It's not really my style, and I find the repetition in the chorus a bit tiring, but I like the verses enough to want to listen to the song some more. There's been some discourse recently regarding 17's music, especially after Woozi wrote that long message on Weverse, I think. I think that's honestly a large enough topic to tackle in a completely separate video, so I'll try to be concise right here about my feelings about this release. The title track clearly wasn't my favorite. I find it deeply underwhelming, especially as the final O213 track that we're probably going to get for a while. But even without that context, Love Money Fame would still be among my least favorite releases that they've ever had. As for the B-sides, Eyes on Me and Rain were both close to excellent, and the other three were alright enough. Overall, this is nowhere near the best that 17 have to offer musically, but there's still some good material here. I honestly kind of hope that the enlistment era will potentially give the members a chance to rest and recharge whatever creative juices they need. As a fan, I see the recent dip in musical quality more as an indicator of 17 being pushed too far by their company rather than the members just like getting worse on their own.
그렇게 망친 내 인생 책임져 날 떠나는 너는 행복하니 난
JD1, Be Responsible. This is a fun, upbeat, old-school dance track. I'm not familiar enough with the original version of the song to comment on whether or not this is a good remake, but I enjoy it enough. It's got that kind of crunchy mixing that some older K-pop songs have that make them sound like they were recorded on a toaster, which could be considered commitment to the bit. I'm not particularly attracted to this release at all in all. The melody is a bit too lilting to be catchy, but the synths are too bright to make the song feel deliberately slow, so it just feels kind of middling to me. It makes sense as a release for JD1 though. It matches his overall aesthetic, and I'm pretty sure he's decently popular with like the Ajumas, so this is probably good for him. G-Dragon, Power. G-Dragon's vocal tone can be a bit grating, a bit annoying to certain people, and I'm also not always the biggest fan of his delivery. I feel like Power is very aware of that fact and revels in it. The rap verses are good as expected, with a lot of character and sass in them. The chorus is repetitive and kind of obnoxious in a way that I can appreciate while also not really enjoying it personally. It's a bold comeback statement, I'll say that much, with a bright and energetic tone that's impossible to ignore and that is attention-grabbing regardless of whether you like it or not. So, even though I personally don't really like this song, I still respect it, and who knows, I feel like it still very much could grow on me eventually.
널 만났던 매일이 꿈 같았어 다른 핑계 don't make sense Just wanna say I miss you babe
Nomad, Call Me Back. Call Me Back is an emotion-laden R&B track. The members really lay it on thick. All of them sound genuinely pathetic and regretful of how the relationship turned out. I have to praise them for their performances on this song. It's definitely the kind of song that makes you feel like you're stuck outside, drenched in rain and feeling like shit when you listen to it. It's in the members' line delivery, but it's also from that sad little acoustic guitar that they have leading the instrumental. Overall, it's a very solid song for when you're feeling a little pathetic. The B-side, Compare, is another R&B song with a sad vibe, but it lacks the drama present in Call Me Back. There isn't anything particularly interesting going on in the instrumental either, so it just feels a little bit boring, I guess. It's not bad, just not standing out to me as much as the title track did. B-Wave, Be Your Wave. Hard to Get to You is a fun, energetic pop rock song that's basically a slightly more synth-heavy version of the Bildungsroman songs that have been very prominent in a lot of summer K-pop releases. It's fine, but nothing special. The B-side, Never Lose You Again, is also very familiar sounding to me, although instead of being reminiscent of a teen coming-of-age movie soundtrack, it reminds me a lot more of like an outro song that you'd hear for a slice-of-life anime. Kind of. It doesn't have a particularly strong J-pop influence in my mind, but the general vibe is very reminiscent of that style. Overall, this is a solid enough start-of-fall single that's also got pretty decent writing and mixing. It's just not doing that much for me personally.
내 맘속 청춘의 방 작은 문을 열어 여기 영원히 멈춘 노란 계절
The Wind, Hello My First Love. This is a classic The Wind song. It's a synth-based dance track with a brighter, cuter tone. The song incorporates what sounds like some guitars into its pre-chorus, adding a bit of depth before the lighter, airier chorus starts up. The bridge also utilizes a piano and some almost marching band-style drums for a fun effect. The song leans a bit closer into the Christian horse school sound than High Teen from earlier this year did as well, so if you're a fan of that genre, maybe this group is for you to check out. The B-sides were all pretty much in the same style. Woo is also really fun and lighthearted, but it's a bit more muted than the title track. I Don't Think is more bright boy group pop with some extra energy from the strong beat and punchy synths. It's definitely a mood booster of a song. Good Morning uses slightly stringier synths, creating something strongly reminiscent of some of G-Friend's earlier B-sides. And then Way Too Home is the only more calm, toned-down song on the album, with a more ballad-style approach. The group singing in the chorus was really sweet. Overall, this was a nice comeback if you're into brighter synth pop.
I should be 그렇다 해도 후회 안 돼도 나갈 뿐이야 멈출 수 없어
Sub, 1991. So I'm going to try to be concise, so here's how this is going to go. I'll talk about the title tracks, and then the songs I liked, and then I'm done. Any songs I didn't discuss are all fine, but a bit boring. I have nothing to say about them. Let's go. Title track number 1, 33 is an energetic pop rock song with strong vocals. It's a style that we've heard from many main vocal solo projects. It's more energetic and engaging than your average ballad, but I don't think that 33 really stands out in a pack of similar songs. The other title track, Old Town, is a nice chill R&B type track, maybe even leaning towards city pop territory. It's got some sparkly synths to accompany a gentle groove in the bass line and softer vocals from Changsub. It's really up my alley, I like it. Macchiato is a nice ballad. At the start, it's just his vocals accompanied by a piano, and the most of the song ever adds to that are some background harmonies. It's very simple, very clean, and it's a good use of a strong vocalist. Saturday Night is a kind of fun synth pop song. The synths are bouncy and vaguely reminiscent of when you shake a sheet of metal and get a really good wobble, if that makes sense. It's cute, it's fun. Chivalry is a fun pop rock song that really commits to its bit. There's marching drums and strings in the instrumental to support the more dramatic, almost theatrical vocal style that Changsub adapts for the song. And that's it for the songs I particularly liked. Like I said, the remaining songs are, in my opinion, not bad, but just not interesting enough for me to discuss at the moment. I think this was a fine album, just not my thing. Say My Name, Say My Name. This was a bit of a letdown, if I'm being honest. Let's start with the title track, Reivew. I like the gentle popping synths that open the song. They make it feel light and kind of sparkly, which is a perfect mood for the girls to perform considering their cuter singing styles. The song has almost no weight to it, it's pure vibes, and it's clearly playing to current trends, particularly in girl group music. It's a pretty song that's decently fun to listen to, and it's probably going to get a decent airtime from me, but it's not very interesting considering how many takes on this genre we've gotten this year alone. As for the B-sides, I only really cared for one of them. Firstly, Be a Star is a nice pop ballad to open the EP on a more emotional note. It's not all too interesting for me, but it's decently well performed. Follow Me, spelled with an 8 somehow, is a kind of J-pop style sentimental pop song with a hint of pop rock elements in its melody and percussion. It's quite fun and cutesy, and it even has that slightly crunchier mixing in it that I hear in a lot of Japanese releases, particularly for girl groups. I don't think the song is for me, but it's not bad. The one song that I came from this EP really enjoying was Goldilocks Water. It's to me a perfect example of cutesier K-pop songs. I definitely love an over-the-top, slightly obnoxious cute song. Sometimes something slightly more toned down, but still like bright is a nice to listen to as well. The girls aren't singing in quite as high of a key as they use in the other songs, and the instrumental of Goldilocks Water has a bit more weight in it as well. It's a very good mood lifter as well, with its steady beat and pleasant group singing in the chorus. Yeah, overall, I was slightly let down. All of the songs were good, but only 2 of the 4 made it onto my playlist, and even of those 2, the title track didn't get there by being particularly unique. I think they're set up right now in a good musical direction that suits the members and is nice to listen to, but it's also currently a direction that a lot of other groups are going into, so I don't feel a particularly strong attachment to them as a group yet. Hopefully that identity and attachment will be developed in subsequent releases.
Let's get naked, baby. I can tell me now. Let's be honest.
AB6, Born Like This. This was good enough. The title track, Naked, is a synth dance track with a bright sound. The song is quite playful, with hints of brass accompanying the synths and cheeky lyrics. Maybe it's because both songs are in the same genre by the same group, but Naked reminds me a lot of their title track, Cherry, from 2021, which is one of my favorite songs of AB6's. So, on one hand, I really like this song because it is a style that I have a lot of fun listening to, but on the other hand, I already have a version of this song to listen to, you know? I feel like Naked doesn't do anything more interesting than have, like, kind of shocking lyrics to grab your attention. It's still a good time, it's just nothing all too special. The B-sides are also overall alright. In My Vein is a fun song to start off the mini. It's got a kind of quirky instrumental with a lot of different elements combining to form the percussion and bits of keys, synth and bass making up the rest of the instrumental. The quirkiness adds to the song's message. It's inherently different and proud of it. Forever Young uses some of those electric guitars in its instrumentals to get a bit of that rocker energy and swagger in its verses. The chorus has a different vibe, with some cutesier synth elements added to the instrumental and an overall sweet, sentimental feeling. The contrast isn't too much, but both elements somehow combine to form a very okay end product. It's well made and pretty fun, but I feel like it's not leaning strongly enough into any one direction to make me really want to listen to it instead of any other song, you know? Hurt Me is pretty fine. It's got a nice energetic beat behind everything and maybe my favorite rap verse from Woojin on this album. It's pretty infectious to listen to, but overall a good time in my opinion. And then finally, Butterfly Effect is an emotional close to the mini-album. I like the strings and the overall melody is kind of swoopy in a nice way. It's fine. Overall, this was another decent enough comeback from AB6, with maybe my favorite title track from them since 2021. It was all basically more of what you'd expect from them stylistically, which is fine, but not my favorite thing in the whole world.
Wish you bad luck, bad luck. Just take it what you done. It's karma that you brought.
Jamie, Bad Luck. This is a chill track with lovely vocals from her, a bit lower in tone in the verses and pre-chorus and a bit lighter and airier in the chorus. It's easy listening, catchy enough with delicate production and nice layers of synth on top of a soft beat. The vocal delivery, as always with Jamie, is exquisite, with lovely touches in the background vocals and in the main lines to convey that kind of detached pettiness to someone who wronged her. The song is nothing too special, but it's still quite a nice listen.
그리운 건 그대일까 그대일까 그날의 우리들일까 잠이 오지 않는 밤
CN Blue, X. A Sleepless Night is a good late night song in my opinion. Its guitars and drums are noticeable but not overwhelming, and the vocals are also in that nice kind of in-between zone. The added strings in the second verse also bring in a slight sophistication that I can appreciate. Overall, I'd say that the most prominent part of the song to me is its beat, which stomps more heavily on the chorus and prevents the song from being super melodic in those opening chorus moments. Aside from that though, the song is just kind of flowing over you in a pretty pleasant way. I like it. Bad Bad utilizes electronic guitars but in a way that has a kind of acoustic vibe. The song is recorded like it's being performed at a casual session rather than in a recording studio. It's got a lot of warmth from the melody and from the smoky vocals, giving it an overall really nice, comforting feeling. Racer is more energetic with fast guitars and pounding drums behind the song's pre-chorus, which both admittedly soften a bit for the chorus. It's kind of fun and catchy as a whole, but it has a slightly less distinct vibe compared to the prior two songs. After these three songs, the album gets a bit slower. To My Love is a nice little ballad, slow and sweet. I wasn't really in the mood for it on first listen, but it's still pretty well made, and the rougher vocals transition into something slightly softer, but still with a nice color to suit the song's vibe. Personal Color is also chill, also nice and slow, and Tonight is slow and acoustic sounding as well. It's got some fancy restaurant vibes. Overall, I was more excited by the first half of this mini-album than the second half, where everything slows down a bit. The whole EP is honestly something very expected from in K-pop terms, older rock group. Good music, but nothing that particularly is noteworthy to me, personally. Moonjung Up, Peter. I liked his EP Some that he released around the same time last year, so I was kind of looking forward to this release, and I would say that my expectations were met. The first song, Boom, is a nice New Jack Swing style dance track with a rich instrumental and a good groove. It's a nice lighthearted vibe to start off the mini with. Feel Me is a bit slower and calmer with moodier synths and a rainier atmosphere. The pre-release Love Bomber is also very moody, leaning on Desperate based on his vocal delivery in the chorus, with a nice R&B production that knows when to pull back the instrumental and when to push it to the forefront of the song. The song gets quite atmospheric by its end and doesn't fail to deliver a kind of emotional gut punch. Twist Ya, the title track, is like an extra-dimensional dance track, combining spacey synths with the lonely, moody sound of Feel Me. It's a very easy song to groove to, but it also feels kind of weird to dance along to the song, like you're somehow not getting what the song is about. I find its vibe very interesting and slightly unsettling in a good way. Mwadzigyong, good lord, is a synthy and low-key dancey track with a strong beat, but it's not hitting the same way that the other songs were. I think its melody is just a bit more boring compared to the other songs. Different Night is another rainy, synthy dance track, this time featuring what sounds like a slight Afrobeats inspiration that gives the song a steady beat to dance to, even when the rest of the instrumental stays pretty low-key. Peter Fan is a ballad that keeps consistent with the calm atmosphere of the mini. Without any of the usual dramatics that could endear me to the standard ballad, it's not really doing anything for me, but I guess I can appreciate its success at feeling earnestly emotional. Overall, this was pretty solid, very synthy, very dancey, but also very rainy feeling, which I enjoyed.
This that pretty girl mantra, this that flaunt, you just touched down on LA. Pretty girls don't do drama unless we wanna, it'll be depending on the day.
Jennie, Mantra. I've said this before, but I don't really care that much for bad bitch anthems, but considering how much shit Jennie always gets for everything she does, I think she's one of the few idols who really, deserves to release a song with this message, and she certainly delivers on this song. The way that she catches the beat and hangs onto certain syllables in the chorus is really satisfying to listen to, and her vocals in the verses are full of character. The song also has some pretty impressive mixing in moments, especially in that whispered portion of the start of the second chorus, with the humming background vocals and lighter instrumental elements. I, like everyone else, wish the song was much longer than it is. It has so many fun elements that I just want to listen to it for much longer. Aside from that, though, easily her best solo song. Not that there's much competition, admittedly, I'm not the biggest fan of her other solo work, but this is definitely a direction I would be very happy to follow her down.
And when you come near to me 내 머릿속을 냈지만 내가 뭘 잘못했니 정답을 알려주기 헷갈리게 하지 말고
One Pact, Fallen. Did you guys see the OT5 performances that we got recently? They were a really big comfort to me personally because even as we're getting another OT4 comeback and as Jay's working on some solo stuff or whatever, it's nice to see that the 5 of them are still in this together in some way. That made me happy. Anyways, the music. Let's start with the first song. At the Last Moment is light and sound with barely their synths and a stuttering beat behind the members. It's just really nice to listen to, with cute ornamentation sprinkled throughout the instrumental and subtle building layers of members' harmonies on top of each other. Deserved, the title track, takes some of those cuter, quirkier synth elements from At the Last Moment, but cranks up the energy a bit, with a slightly faster beat and louder volume in the instrumental. The song still overall feels floaty, but it incorporates a bit more weight in the members' verses. It's easily my favorite title track that I've heard from One Pact so far. Its structure and composition is pretty interesting, and the execution and overall production is maybe some of the cleanest that we've gotten from them so far. I Still Do has some really cool round kind of bell-like synths in the verse that get replaced by a piano in the pre-chorus and something slightly spacier, more alien sounding in the chorus. I think I would have liked the song more if they kept the verse synths for the chorus instead of changing them. I just find them really interesting to listen to. Without them, the chorus feels slightly less special. It's still a really well-composed song, though. Reach You is another more sentimental synth track. I like how slow the second verse is at the start. It feels like you're dunked underwater briefly before the song speeds up and clears up a little bit. Next Life is probably the most lighthearted song on the EP, sound-wise, combining with the light synths we heard in Deserved with brighter verses. The song feels slightly tropical in instrumentation and its general, chill, content vibe. My Dear is a ballad to close the EP. All of the members sound good here, but Yeram's voice especially stands out. His tangy color stands out on top of the synths, and his emotional delivery is also exceptional. The song is slow and deliberate feeling, keeping you close to the members' voices with very little to distract from them, and I really enjoyed it. Overall, this is pretty easily my favorite project from One Pact so far. Their production feels cleaner, crisper, and as good as the job they do with their more intense-sounding songs, this lighter approach also really suits them. All 6 songs on the EP feature really pretty synth work, giving the whole EP a gorgeous overall color.
got the riz. Got the riz. Hey.
Yoon Sub-in, Riz. At some point, I am going to have to just put comebacks in last place for using the word Riz unironically. Unfortunately, I do like this comeback musically, so I have a bit of a hard time sticking to my principles. Despite its use of the word that needs to be purged from K-pop, Riz is really fun to listen to and right up my alley. It's a sleek dance track mostly utilizing a bass as the instrumental's main hook, but it also incorporates some nice synth elements for the pre-chorus and a guitar for the dance break. Sobin has a great voice for the style. It's very light and just glides on top of the song. Riz is basically a slightly more sensual version of Love is Like a Wave from last year. The B-side, Square, is also good. It uses some ballad-style elements in the pre-chorus before an airy synth-based chorus. The song is really sentimental sounding, adding an emotional touch to contrast the title track's slightly more brazen confidence. Overall, this was good, but please, let's get some new words in our vocabulary. I can't stand this for much longer.
Hey, hey, you, I don't like your boyfriend. No way, think you need a new one. Hey, hey, you, I want to be a boyfriend.
Pow. Boyfriend. I don't really know who's working at Grid Entertainment that had ties to Avril fucking Lavigne, but I love that for them, and I love even more that they were like, yo, we should get our boy group to do a remake of this iconic Avril Lavigne song. And then what's even fucking crazier to me is that they got Avril to not only sign off on this remake, but also to work on it, apparently. That's crazy, that's iconic. I'm so happy that I get to live in this timeline. Boyfriend by Pow features a more prominent bass riff in the chorus to back up the chanting, and some more hip-hop or trap-style elements in the verses, with a stuttering beat and softer synths instead of the iconic pop-punk style we got in the original verse. I think it's a smart way to transform the song from its original form to something that more suits a current K-pop sound, and more specifically something that matches the music that POW's released prior to this, which has all been slightly more low-key, I'd say. I think the verses and chorus are slightly incongruous. You do kind of feel like you're listening to two different songs at the same time, but honestly, I'm having too much fun listening to this to care. This was very specifically for me to enjoy. Me liking this as much as I do isn't exactly the most highbrow opinion that I hold, but I do earnestly just have a good time listening to this. As for the B-sides, I is a more low-key track like POW's other music that I have very briefly mentioned. It's got some vaguely spacey synths combined with a barely there beat and softer vocals, and it's just nice and chill overall. Bae also features some spacier synths, but combines them with a beat that has a touch more weight behind it, which just makes the song click more for me. It's really pretty and vibey, and it makes me kind of zone out and forget where I am for 3 minutes, which I appreciate. The melody in the chorus also vaguely reminds me of their song Valentine that they released earlier this year. The final song, Sunset, is an intensely emotional rock song, with quieter verses and an explosive chorus featuring loud electric guitars, heavier drums, and desperately belted singing. The mixing is slightly rough, with the vocals, especially in the chorus, feeling almost too overpowering, but when you're going for a song that's supposed to just convey raw emotion, I don't find that to be so much of an issue. I really like this song. Overall, this was another cute little EP from POW. Hopefully we'll get a slightly longer project from them next comeback, but I did still enjoy this. It combined the softer R&B pop sound that we got on their debut and their first comeback with some new, louder rock elements that still really suits their sound. They have done like pop-punky stuff before with Favorite, but this still feels like a step in a more potentially intense direction for them, which I like.
I will be there forever. I'll be there for you.
Jin, I'll be there. Jin being the designated radio-friendly pop rocker of BTS makes a lot of sense, considering the musical influences that he's listed in the past, but also because I feel like his voice really suits the genre. He's got a lot of character in his delivery that makes him stand out really well on tracks like this. I actually really need him to release a J-rock style song at some point now that I think of it. I feel like vocally he'd really suit it. Anyways, I'll Be There is warm and springy and exactly the kind of thing I'd expect to listen to while on a summer road trip. It's an easy mood booster that's probably very vulnerable to getting overplayed, but for now I'm having a good time with it and I'm looking forward to Happy's release.
Feels like love, 더하고 빼도 정답은 안 너. Girl, I give you the answer. 답은 바로 너. 기도하기 쉬운
ampers&one, one question. I have been waiting for an ampers&one mini album since their debut, so I'm really happy with this. I was looking forward to it and it was good. I love a lighthearted, fresh concept on occasion, and among some of the darker sounds we expect to see from October releases, He plus She equals We was like a breath of fresh air. The main hook, that da-da-da-da-da-da, has been stuck in my head since release. It might have genuinely ruined my life. That's how you know the song is a bop. The instrumental is pretty rich, with classic guitars, bass, and synths, combined with some brassier elements to create a really fun soundscape. This is ampers&one back in the same space that they occupied with their debut title track, On, and I'm definitely here for it. I'm still obsessed with that song, and I'm obsessed with He plus She equals We as well. Calling You Back is a lighthearted pop song. I don't have that much to say about it. It's chill, and it carries the happy vibe from the title track over to the B-sides. Slide is a fun, dancey hip-hop song with a strong synth-back chorus and catchy 2010-style hook in the post-chorus. It's like another B-side of theirs from this year, Crazy Stupid Fun. Slightly outdated, stuck in the early 2010s, but it's still a good time. Whip Up is a dance track with a prominent bass, good rap verses, and a low chanted chorus. It's got a fun hint of guitar in the outro that gives the song some extra character before it ends. Over the Moon is a sentimental synth-pop song with a sparkly, star-speckled vibe and sweet lyrics. It gives me a similar feeling that Let's Go See the Stars by Boy Next Door gives me, maybe a little bit less raw emotionally, but still really charming. And then finally, Fly is a ballad to close the album. It's pretty standard, I'd say, but it incorporates a really nice full orchestral sound in moments that elevates it slightly above the average filler K-pop ballad, I think. Overall, this was pretty much exactly what I expected from ampers&one's first mini album. It's well made, mostly very sweet sounding. As good as it is, I do kind of wish that I was a bit more surprised by what they had to offer, but overall, it's still pretty solid. Triple S Visionary Vision. Performante. I sounded really American there, I'm so sorry. I don't know why they gave a subunit a 10-track album, especially considering the fact that the whole group just released a full-length album earlier this year. But if they have the material, I guess I don't mind if they use it. As dancers and performers, I think the Triple S girls did a good job with Hit the Floor, and I think the vocal parts also sound really pretty in the pre-chorus especially. I just feel like the rapping and chanting in the song didn't work though. The girls all have pretty soft tones and just sound awkward trying to deliver the kind of punch that I think the song demands. In addition, the song's parts are all pretty short, with the chorus especially feeling like it just passes you by. There's no time for you to really get used to the song or to get fully immersed in it if you happen to like it. I think I could enjoy another version of the song because I think the glitchy elements in the chorus and the nice synth and background vocals of the bridge and pre-chorus could meld to create something really cool, but the current version of Hit the Floor just isn't hitting for me, unfortunately. I was looking forward to this lineup with this concept as well, so it's kind of disappointing. The B-sides were overall pretty good though. Choom is the Triple S take on a pop rock song, with drums and guitars hidden behind synths and vocals to create a kind of mystical, swimmy feeling. The group vocals that have become a staple of their discography sound beautiful in this song, acting almost as siren-like lures further into the song's depths. Eclair is nice and light in sound, with brighter, higher synths and a stuttering beat behind the vocal layers. The beat strengthens behind the girls' raps in the bridge, which I actually think are nicer to listen to than the ones used in Hit the Floor. The song is a pretty standard Triple S B-side, but I still find it nice to listen to. Love So Soul has drums reminiscent of a pop-punk song and delicate synths reminiscent of, well, a Triple S song. It uses the girls' higher, cuter-sounding vocals really well, towing the line between sweet and obnoxious, but ultimately managing to lean more towards the former rather than the latter. Love So Soul combines its elements in a different way than Choom does, leaning more heavily into the mystical, fairy-like atmosphere that underlies the whole song. Atmosphere has heavier synths and more intense beat to deliver a strong impact to the listener. The verses have some weird beat syncopation, I think. The rhythm gets slightly weird and off-kilter with synths and vocals coming in at kind of unpredictable times. The overall effect of the song is really fun. It's a bit much, but it's never too overwhelming, doing just enough to stay engaging. 12 Rings is light and cutesy, kind of like Eclair and Love So Soul in my opinion. It's nice enough for me to listen to on the album or on a playlist, but I'm not seeking it out on its own. The cute vocals are once again towing that line for me and threatening to fall onto the obnoxious side. Vision is maybe the most atmospheric song on the album, which is saying something for Triple S. It's got some really lovely layers of guitar and bass underlying the usual echoey, dreamy vocals and synths to give the song a really rich, full feeling that I sometimes miss from their songs. This gives the song a groove and just a feeling of being slightly more tethered and less wishy-washy, which makes me really enjoy it a lot. Bionic Power also has a nice bass underneath everything to give it some groove. It also utilizes a slightly more exotic instrumental lineup than I think Triple S has ever used before, which gives it a nice character and makes it stand out in their discography. The chorus feels like it's mostly this really soft chant on top of the instrumental, which is really catchy and pleasant to listen to with all of the layering, but it does get a bit tiring with repeat listens. I do overall like the song though. It has an addictive and magical quality to it. Anyways, I liked all of the B-sides, and while a lot of the songs were in the typical Triple S style, there were some attempts at new sounds here that I appreciated. I do wish that I liked Hit the Floor more than I do, then I'd probably think higher of this album as a whole because, you know, it's the title track, it's meant to be representative. So that's the only, I guess, big major complaint that I have here. Otherwise, I found it quite good.
Get loud, cut your gun and bass, I'm down. Baby, come and give it to me. Red top, we don't 느껴지는 my vibe. Baby, come and give it to me.
Kiss of Life, Lose Yourself. So someone on Kiss of Life's creative team clearly agreed with my opinion on Te Quiero and decided to give Kiss of Life a title track with a slightly Latin influence. I'm so happy. I feel like Get Loud suits the girls as vocalists and performers so much, and it still matches the group's overall musical identity. My only mild complaint about the song is that Julie's rap in the second verse does feel kind of out of place here. I appreciate that they tried to give it a slight beat change to make the difference in vibe feel more intentional, but in my opinion, it just brought the song's aura to a halt for no good reason. Aside from that though, the song was great. There's fun moments where the instrumental strips back slightly to highlight the vocals before everything returns to form, which I really liked. The chorus is high energy and faster paced without being overwhelming. I hope this becomes as much of a hit as Sticky or Midas Touch. It's really my favorite title track of theirs so far. REM is a nice R&B track that highlights the sweet, smooth vocal tones from all of the girls. The song in particular also really showcases that slightly old-school girl group vibe from Kiss of Life that they've always had. I feel like there's a version of the song with the harmonies and this instrumental that was already released in like the early 2000s or something. Chemistry is another R&B track. Its instrumental makes you feel like you've been submerged underwater. There's a floatiness and weightiness present here that wasn't as prominent in REM. The beat and melody feel slightly out of sync at the chorus. I presume that was intentional, but it does feel slightly strange to me personally. Igloo is a hip-hop track with a distinct instrumental and overall minimal production. The girls' vocals have an echoey effect placed on top of them, which creates a kind of cool effect, especially in the sparse moments where the girls get to sing. I like the raps here. All of the members sound confident with their delivery and do a good job of catching the beat. I'm not too excited by the overall production, but the song's not bad. Too Many Alex is easily my favorite song on the mini and probably my favorite Kiss of Life song so far. The song also has a slightly more old school vibe, but in a different way from the R&B tracks on the album. The song incorporates a hip-hop beat with a sparse but groovy instrumental in a way that gives you no choice but to dance along with it. The inclusion of jazzier elements makes the song bright and sunny, and the girls sound like they're having fun in the recording booth, which ultimately sells the song. Back to Me is an anthemic pop song with a grandstanding chorus incorporating some smartly used chanty vocals. The overall composition and instrumentation of the song feels very appropriate for a 2010 summer anthem. Normally, I might have some complaints about this kind of song feeling dated, but it works in my opinion, for one because Kiss of Life is very obviously calling back to previous pop eras in their entire discography, and also because the song is just so much fun to listen to and it does make me feel slightly nostalgic. Finally, No One But Us also has group vocals in the chorus that call back to the summer hits of the previous decade, but the anti-drop we get following all of that build-up changes the song's overall mood. The song is fun to listen to, and I'm sure it would be even more fun to sing along to at a concert or even more so at a festival, but on the album it does feel slightly redundant. Like, it's not bad, but it leans slightly more into dated than nostalgic territory for me, especially when I compare it to how Back to Me makes me feel. It's still a fun listen though. Overall, this was a very solid mini album. I think I prefer Kiss of Life and Born to Be XX more though as full products, but this is still well produced with catchy songs that highlight the girls' strengths. I just feel like for a lot of the B-sides, I've heard them before from other artists. I don't think that songs like No One But Us deliver quite enough of a sound or vibe that felt unique to Kiss of Life. For a B-side, that's maybe less of an issue than for a title track, but it still is a bit of a shame to me. Overall though, I would still say this was a very good project.
It's like gold. 눈을 뗄 수 없이 glow. Day and night we've been blazing just like that. Day and night we've been blazing just like that.
ITZY, Gold. I think Gold is kind of fun. Like a lot of songs produced by Dem Joints, the song has some kookier elements and parts of the instrumental that feel kind of spacey and floaty in a strange way. I think I want to like the song more than I do because I don't really have any complaints about the choices made in composition and songwriting. I find a lot of the added elements and distinct sections of the song really fun. Something just isn't clicking at the moment, I think primarily with the vocals. Not that the girls don't sound good, just that the combination of vocals and instrumental is slightly crunchier than I wanted it to be. I suspect that if I return to the song in like 3 months, I'll be fully sold on it, but for now it's not doing what I want for me. Imaginary Friend, though, works completely, and I think it might be my new favorite ITZY song. It's the kind of song that I never would have expected to hear from ITZY, but it works. The girls' lighter vocal tones really suit the dreamy atmosphere of the song, and Aaliyah and Ryujin especially do an incredible job delivering the atmosphere and emotions that the song requires. I remember when Bet On Me was first released and everyone was talking about how it was a new direction for ITZY and how they wish that ITZY would make more songs like that. I disagreed with that opinion to some extent. I'm not the biggest fan of Bet On Me, primarily because of the vocal mixing, but I have to say that now I agree with the fundamental idea behind Bet On Me's fans' opinions. The song definitely feels like a reward for the positive reaction to that song. It's a lot smoother to listen to than the average ITZY song, with some elements of, I want to say, contemporary rock and like maybe even shoegaze thrown in. It feels a bit more indie, a bit more personal than the average ITZY single, and I'm having a great time listening to it. Bad Girls Are Us is also a good time. It's got a very prominent country influence, in my opinion, combined with a more low-key K-pop dance music sensibility. The girls use similar light and airy vocals for the verses, like what we hear in Imaginary Friend, but their chorus vocals have a bit more punch without the usual slightly shouty quality we get from them. The dance break in the bridge adds a lot of energy to the song that barely carries over into the final chorus. This song was a treat for me, who had Wild Wild West as low-key one of my favorite ITZY songs for a while. Supernatural tries to capture that same floaty feeling as Imaginary Friend, but unfortunately it doesn't quite hit for me. Some of those super high, falsetto-heavy vocals are grating to me, and the use of the bass in the chorus that I normally love isn't enough to distract from that. I like what the song is trying to do a lot, it's just a couple of steps away from succeeding for me, unfortunately. 5 feels like a B-side I've heard from a bunch of K-pop groups in the past year, including probably in some shape or form from ITZY, but it's a decent song all around. The only thing that really distinguishes this song as an ITZY track rather than something from another group is the chant after the chorus and the girl's delivery of the second verse rap. I like the song. The softer chorus suits Leah's voice a lot, and the kind of scattered synths and percussion in the instrumental is very quirky and fun to listen to. We can always trust Changbin to nail a girl group song, so of course I had a great time listening to Vey. The song is definitely a Stray Kids sister track, with a slightly rougher, noisier chorus that can be grating if you're not into that style. I like how Changbin's verses are incorporated with the girls' lines, so it feels more like he's low-key just become another member of the group rather than a featured artist. I have a lot of fun listening to it. As for the final versions of the OT4 songs, I have nothing new to say about them other than that I'm really happy that we now have OT5 versions of the songs. Over the course of the year, both my opinion of Untouchable and Born to Be have stayed about the same, but I think I like Mr. Vampire more now than I did back in January. Overall, this was probably my favorite mini-album from ITZY. I like how many of the songs on this mini-album were more relaxed, a bit dreamier than their usual stuff. I feel like it really suited the girls vocally, and it was a nice switch up from what I'd expect to hear from them. Min Ji-yoon, Sentimental Love. This is a nice acoustic R&B song. Ji-yoon's voice has a really lovely depth that we don't get to hear in a lot of K-pop artists these days. It provides a lovely warmth to the song with a fairly simple composition. Everything's really cleanly produced, which allows for all of the layers of acoustic guitar, synths, background harmonies, and main vocals to melt together in a really beautiful way. It's a lot shorter than I want it to be, but at least then I can recommend that you give it a listen if you haven't yet, because it's not going to take up that much of your time if you don't like it. I like the song a lot though, and I need an extended version of some sort to be released ASAP.
Don't you want me like I want you, baby? Don't you need me like I need you now? Sleep tomorrow, but tonight go crazy. All you gotta do is just meet me at the
Rosé and Bruno Mars, Apate. This is just fun and lighthearted, and it makes complete sense to me how everyone instantly became addicted to the song. Rosé's delivery is full of personality and sells the fun lyrics, and the beat of the song stays steady throughout the whole thing to give the song a good core. The chorus is, of course, insanely catchy and an undeniable earworm. Bruno's verse brings a little bit of more oomph to the song, boosting the instrumental a bit as well. The song is a great example of that whole simple is best idea, because it combines a fun idea of playing a lighthearted game with someone that you love with an addictive melody to create an instant hit. The way that the chanting builds up over the course of the song is so smart as well. It feels like it's getting more and more excited as the song goes on and everything builds up. I really can't get enough of this song. It's just a masterclass in creating a pop hit. The boys, Trigger. I've been seeing talks that ISG's both trying to sabotage the comeback and that they're trying to win the boys back to get that contract to get re-signed. I don't know which side I'm on based on the comeback promotions and everything. I just enjoyed this comeback. I thought it was good. Track 1, Bite Back, is a fun electronic dance track with an infectious beat at its core. The slightly distorted strings and synth in the background give the song a slightly eerie energy perfect for the current season. I'm not the biggest fan of the second verse, which briefly changes the song's rhythm, but aside from that, I have a really good time listening to Bite Back. Trigger also utilizes a strong beat at its core, but while Bite Back seemed to lean into a slightly Afrobeats direction, Trigger sounds like it maybe has some house influence with its rounded synths in the verses. The pre-chorus incorporates some dramatic strings and the chorus some big brass to give the song an overall very grand feeling. It's intense and loud, but it all comes together very well in my opinion. The combination of chaotic house music with the over-the-top chorus feels like a remix you'd hear on Road to Kingdom or something. It's kind of interesting in my opinion, and I think it comes together pretty well despite the potential for complete chaos. Bad is less heavy in sound compared to the first two songs on the track list, with a bassier synth combined with light percussion and some other synths that at points sound like they're trying to imitate an acoustic guitar. In doing so, the song manages to slightly lighten the tone of the album while maintaining the metallic electronic sheen that defines the album's overall vibe. Slip Away is a sensual synth track with a fluttering beat and light, airy vocals from the members. Like its title implies, the song is slippery. You feel like you can't quite grasp it. It utilizes the members' vocals really well, giving them moments to highlight a particular line with no instrumental behind them, or combining vocals to form some delicious harmonies. The song feels very deliberately crafted in a way that makes it supremely satisfying to listen to. Rewind is also kind of slippery in sound, with synths gliding in and out of your ears behind airier vocals. I have less to say about the song than I do about Slip Away. I feel like they do similar things in Slip Away, but they just do them slightly more adeptly, I guess. Finally, They See Me Dream takes the metallic sound of the album into a spacey direction, with a lack of strong beat but continued incorporation of synths and guitars, creating an untethered feeling. You really have to rely on the members' voices to feel remotely grounded to reality while listening to the song, and the song's various sections utilize the different tones of the members to differentiate themselves. It's really well done, and it kind of feels like it could have been included on Key's Pleasure Shop mini-album from last month, which is a very high compliment in my eyes. I really enjoyed this mini-album. I don't know if I like it more than Sixth Sense. I think I like those two most recent mini-albums about equally. It's nice to see the boys explore a concept that I don't think they've really done before, but that feels like a natural extension of some of their prior work. The songs here are maybe a little bit less distinctive from each other than other B-sides on other albums were, but I feel like they were all really high quality, so I have no qualms about that. Yeah, this was really good from the boys.
Tell me, calling you GPT, 대답해줘 GPT. 뭐가 궁금해, 그대로도 충분해. 눈에 별빛이 sing, and I want you to say. 그만 모르는 척해줘, baby.
Stacy, L. I feel like, at least concept-wise, this is the vibe that people wanted out of Metamorphosis, so every single person who complained about Cheeky Icy Thang not meeting their expectations had better give GPT a listen. GPT is a cutesy song, kind of video gamey inspired, with bright synths, a fast beat, and light vocals on top of everything. The song isn't as punchy as some of their other title tracks, but I think it instead leans into sounds that make their B-sides so pleasant to listen to. The vocals sound really lovely, and it's easy to get lost in the song's overall vibe. Using what sounds like a kind of water drum or some other percussion in the bridge is a nice break from the electronic instrumental, a sort of touch grass moment in the song to connect with something less artificial before the final chorus comes in. The song is really good. I can't emphasize that enough without being super in your face. It's confident enough that it doesn't need a lot of bells and whistles in order to be attention-grabbing. Meant to Be, the B-side, is a nice rainy day R&B track with more gentle instrumentation and vocals. It's very calm, including moments for the listener to just sink further into the song, like in the tiny little interlude between the first chorus and second verse. You just get to lean back and relax for 3 minutes with a nice song to accompany your thoughts, and I really appreciate that. This is a really small project, just 2 songs, but everything feels really deliberately crafted in both songs, which I appreciate so much. Both GPT and Meant to Be are really soft and delicate in sound, and if you want to engage with them, you can either just enjoy their atmosphere, or you have to go digging further into their layers to really see what they're made of, because there's not a whole lot initially jumping out at you. I really appreciate that. It feels like the producers respect our intelligence, I think that's how I want to say that. Like, they're not just dangling something shiny in front of our faces, they're trusting us to take the time to really understand these songs if we decide that we like them, and I feel like that kind of production choice is really rare, but it really showcases the confidence that the team behind them has in the girls to deliver these kinds of songs, and in the fans to appreciate the songs.
I just bought my baby brother, got another for straight from the store. Fly around the world so she can eat by the shore. That's my baby, that's my sugar. I don't need no honey on the side. That's unconditional.
Jaehyun, Unconditional. Very few things beat pre-enlistment releases in terms of achieving peak emotional devastation. Like, what do you mean you're releasing such a good song just to remind us of what we can't get for another, 2 years? It's absolutely criminal. Anyways, Unconditional is so much fun to listen to. For one, Jaehyun does a great job conveying just how down bad he is for this girl. The lyrics are quite a lot. They're so much fun to listen to. Jaehyun also has mastered his delivery of these R&B hip-hop songs, so he sounds excellent. The song is also really well produced. It's catchy and it doesn't do too much, but it still incorporates a good amount of details in its production to keep it pretty interesting. This feels more like a song that should be released in the scorching summer heat rather than late October, but some warmth is really appreciated right now, so I'll take it. I will be very sad once the enlistment happens, probably before this video was actually released, but this was really good. I'm glad that we got this one final gift from him. &team, Jugoya. &team have released a lot of songs with softer rock elements thanks to Soma Genda's hand in their song production, and so I think that a song like Jugoya, which leans even more heavily into those elements, makes sense for them to release, especially as the lead song for the fall portion of their 4 seasons project that they're working on this year. The song feels warm and comforting to me, with nice emotional vocals from the members and softer electronic guitars accompanying the vocals for the song's duration. The over and overs are a nice way to lead into the final chorus. It's catchy and memorable, and the members, especially Weiju, sing the line in a really satisfying way. I also want to shout out how great I think Fuma and Yuma sound here. I think they're the 2 members that I most enjoy listening to on these more J-pop leaning songs. Their vocal style really suits it. And the B-side is also really good. Big Suki has a really fun, catchy bass riff under the whole song and to lend some groove and fun energy. The synths are also really bouncy and playful to accompany the bass, creating a really fun, lighthearted energy that's perfectly accentuated by the members' vocal delivery. It's a perfect song for the members to perform, in my opinion, and I know that I'll be eating up every video of them performing the song that I can find. I'm also just a big fan of the pun in the song's name. Since the da and daisuki means big, so big suki means like, love, it's cute. I'm a sucker for that. Overall, the single was really good, like their other projects from this year, and I'm really looking forward to Yuki Akari's release later in the year.
Cherish my love. Cherish my love. Oh my crush, that's all my wish. 미친 나는 이 설렘은 못 참지 협조해줘, you got it.
Islet, I'll Like You. Track 1, I'll Like You, needs to be longer. I could say that about basically every Islet song, but I desperately need a full-length version of I'll Like You. The deep synth with beautifully layered vocals creates such an addictive sound, and the beat and glitchy elements that linger behind everything add even more character to the song. I could listen to I'll Like You forever and never get bored with it. I feel like there's so many things going on that meld together so perfectly, and so the fact that this whole song is barely 2 minutes long fills me with indescribable rage, that I will nonetheless try to describe by the end of this comeback review. The title track, Cherish My Love, is the longest song we've gotten from Islet at 2 minutes and 56 seconds. Someone will have to pay for this crime, but I digress. The song itself is really, really fucking good. The soft sound suits the girls vocally. Minju especially sounds incredible on the chorus. The song is very warm in sound, with the only cooler notes present in that very soft synth that stays behind the whole song. Islet's creative team very clearly had a sonic vision for this group that involves a magical, floaty feeling that can only really be accomplished by the delicate background vocals that pepper most of their songs in their discography, and that are also present on Cherish. Overall, the song feels like a version of an acoustic pop track that took one too many trips into a dream realm. It's so pretty, and I'm obsessed with it. I probably could have gone without the breakdown we get in the second verse of If You Know, You Know, but I appreciate the attempt to bring a new color to Islet's discography. Aside from that, I do like the song, with slightly more metallic synths and a less dreamy take on the glitchy vocals that we heard in Magnetic. It's pretty cool. Pimple combines acoustic elements, giving the song a warm, personal touch with Islet's signature magical sound that you get from floaty background vocals and touches of synth. Pimple feels very personal, very honest, and I kind of wish that the girls would have had the chance to try their hands at lyric writing for the song. I think even if the end product would have been slightly clumsier, it would have matched the song's message. Tic Tac is more fast-paced with a retro video gamey sound. Like I'll Like You, I desperately need the song to be longer. It's so much fun to listen to, and it makes perfect use of the glitchy sounds we hear in a lot of garage or garage-inspired songs. It's quirky and youthful, and a very natural addition to their discography. This was, like Super Real Me, a pretty phenomenal EP in my opinion, with one very clear flaw that I have already mentioned. These songs, as great as they are too short, and I feel like I might hurt someone about it. Fuck streaming, fuck TikTok, Islet have a discography with quality high enough that it should transcend all of that nonsense, but instead they're being held captive by it. The same thing is happening with ENHYPEN and many other hype groups, K-pop groups, musical artists as a whole. It's frustrating for Islet in my opinion, because they don't have any songs in their discography that were released prior to this bullshit becoming the norm like some other groups have. What needs to happen, or at least one thing that needs to happen, is someone needs to go up to the Hive building, punch the Believed CEO in the face, and tell them to gather up the songwriters and producers that worked on Islet's music and create full-length versions of all these songs, burn those full-length versions onto a CD, and send that CD to me specifically. I love this music so much, but I am endlessly frustrated by this clear push for fucking streaming optimization, TikTok optimization, whatever. Fuck optimization, this is supposed to be art, and it's infuriating to listen to a group with such clear musical identity, with a production team that clearly seems passionate and competent with the kind of music they want to release, having to hold themselves to new industry standards. This was such a good album, in my opinion. That's why it's ranked so highly. I just think that it needs just one little extra push to truly make Islet one of my favorite K-pop groups.
One lick giving whiplash. You drop with a big flash. 집중해 and think fast. 이유는 이모te. 왜 이제 너와 did that? Day one 너와 been bad. Don't stop 흔들린 채. 머리에도 can't touch that.
aespa, Whiplash. I'm probably the millionth person to say this, but what a year this has been for aespa. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't really done a techno dance track like Whiplash before. It suits their sound so much, and the girls always shine so much when they're given a cunty track like this. Whiplash starts with a fast pace and an infectious beat behind the girls' vocals. The build-up over the course of the song is excellent, with more layers of synth on top of the beat being added over the course of the runtime. The song has a very catwalky feel to it because it mostly is just beat with minimal additions on top of it, which makes the moments where we get the girls singing on top of each other to feel all the more special. Is this song as good as Armageddon or Supernova? No, I wouldn't say so, but that's not Whiplash's fault necessarily. Those two songs were lightning in a bottle, and I feel like you could describe either one of those two songs as aespa's magnum opus, you know? Whiplash on its own is still really fun, really well crafted, and it shows that aespa are continuously willing to try out new genres and explore new territories. In that sense, this song is still a massive win for them. Kill It, to me, feels like I'll Make You Cry's little sister. It's intense and kind of strange, with a metallic beat behind the intense vocals in the pre-chorus and attitude-filled raps. The chorus especially is a bit much to take in, with the kill it's being delivered in a very quirky way and the synth buzzing in the back of my ears. It all comes together in that bridge for me though. It's louder and more unapologetic in a fun way. This isn't my favorite type of aespa song, admittedly. I'll play it occasionally, but it's not something that I particularly gravitate towards, but it's still quite good. Flights Not Feelings is so pretty and dreamy, with some really pretty synths behind the airy chanting in the chorus. The instrumental feels like it's just doing its own thing behind the verses, just gliding around and not particularly attached to the beat. Flights Not Feelings feels like the kind of song you'd hear in a fever dream segment of a movie or something. It's slightly disorienting but oddly calming. Pink Hoodie is a quirky hip-hop song in the style of their Japanese release Hot Mess from earlier this year. The pre-chorus is gorgeous and the chorus is so much fun to listen to, but my favorite part of the song is easily the verses, which combine fun raps with deeper synths and vocal moments that completely fry my brain. This is a song for the girls that get it, and I get it completely. Flowers is a really pretty R&B track, with softer vocals behind an instrumental that combines acoustic elements with this kind of ominous sounding, I want to say, synth element lingering in the background of everything. It's a really interesting effect that has made the song really interesting on repeat listens. Finally, I guess after Live My Life, someone on their creative team realized that we like aespa doing teen pop rock. Just Another Girl is really fun, with pretty group vocals in a slightly lower register than we'd normally get from a K-pop group, which makes the song feel even more like it's meant forever for absolutely anyone to be able to sing along to. It's really fun to vibe to this song. It captures a very specific, nostalgic feeling. It somehow sounds like the culmination of almost all the music that I was listening to in middle school. It's not doing anything particularly noteworthy in my opinion, but it still feels kind of special. I think overall, this might be my favorite album of theirs since Savage. I'm one of those annoying Mi's who believe that Savage is still aespa's best overall release. Not to say that their releases after that weren't good, because they were, but just that the Savage mini album really unlocked something in me, and I feel like Whiplash is kind of circling back to some of the sounds that I absolutely adored on that mini album, while simultaneously incorporating new sounds and new styles obviously, since the girls have had years of experience in the studio and on stage now. This mini album also includes, I'd say, new artistic flares in the members' performances on the tracks. This is just a really solid aespa album, I'd say. Purple Kiss, Headway. I know we keep on talking about how like Purple Kiss has fallen off in popularity, but it really is so baffling to me because they've never dipped in terms of like music quality or anything, like nothing significant, and Headway is another example of that. This was so good, and I absolutely implore everyone, all 5 people listening to this, to like go check out Purple Kiss. I'm just trying to do what I can. Anyways, the music. Intro Concrete Jungle starts the album off with siren-like vocals from the girls and a deep, ominous synth rock type sound. As fun as it is as an intro to set the mood, I would have loved to hear a full-length version of Concrete Jungle. On My Bike is the most dreamcatcher that Purple Kiss have ever been, and I'm not just saying that because they're both girl groups doing spooky rock. The song feels like it easily could have been a title track for the Dystopia series, is all I'm saying. I really like it. The vocals in the chorus are a bit sharp to my ear, but the melody is super catchy, and I love the use of the kind of spooky melody box style elements in the space between the chorus and verses. The song is fast-paced, and it doesn't give you a chance to catch your breath, but it's so exhilarating, and I have a great time with it, especially when I listen to the outro, which is supremely catchy and a great culmination of the song's energy. Sweet Nightmare is a lighter-sounding pop-rock song. It feels sentimental a bit, with the chorus that just floats past you and an overall sound that reminds me of road trips that I took when I was younger. Encore is a fun, kind of spooky, dark pop song with a string instrumental behind the girls' lilting vocals. This song is the Sweet Juice sequel that people were waiting for, and I'd be really disappointed if there wasn't a performance video at the very least ready to be released for this. Finally, Light the Way is pretty and soft and floaty. It's a sentimental way to close the mini-album. It just moves slowly but steadily through its runtime, with synths and guitars combining to create a dreamy atmosphere. This mini-album was so good that it made me feel like a fake fan for not yet having bought any Purple Kiss albums, despite the fact that I've been a massive fan of theirs since debut. This problem will be ameliorated soon, believe me, but for now, all that I can do is recommend that others give this album a listen as well. It's perfect for October and November, giving all the songs a slightly different soundscape with the same spooky, eerie vibe. It's excellent as always from them.
Tonight, I will show you my other side. Here we go, from the top.
Yuta, Depth. I'm so proud of this release. It's been way too long in the making. We've seen in past projects that Yuta was more than skilled enough to carry himself for a solo debut, especially one of this style, and so to finally get to listen to this project and watch clips of him performing these songs is such a dream come true. The first song on the album is Last Song, kind of ironically, starting off with a softer and more pulled back ballad, focusing on the emotions in Yuta's singing rather than any flashy instrumental elements. The intensity of the emotions builds up with an electric guitar in the background of everything, hinting at the loud release that we get 2 minutes into the song. It's very cathartic, very emotional, and I love it. Off the Mask fucking slaps. First of all, the song is heavy with vocals that are growled almost the whole way through, especially in the verses. The chorus is slightly faster and lighter on its feet than the verses, but it still absolutely hits heavy. The dive into becoming a full-on screamo song for the bridge was also very, very appreciated. Save You is another intense rock metal song with some rougher, screamier moments. Yuta sings the chorus with so much desperation and emotion. The slight whininess in his voice that pops up in a couple of NCT tracks is turned up to 11 for this delivery. He sounds rough and honest in a beautiful way on the song and is backed up fully by the intense instrumental. Bad Euphoria is, compared to some of the other songs on the mini-album, kind of lighter in sound. The guitars and drums aren't as heavy, and while Yuta sings the verses a bit lower in his register, the overall effect feels slightly less angry or desperate than the other songs. To me, it sounds like a good time. Prisoner is also not as heavy in sound as the other songs on the album, but it still carries a lot of desperation in his vocals and in the overall composition. It reminds me of some of the British rock that I grew up listening to thanks to my dad, so it's kind of nostalgic for me, and I really like it. Goodbye is maybe the most emo-sounding song on the EP. It's got the heavy guitars and slightly whiny delivery that I associate with that style, without the screaming and growling that I associate with metal. As someone with a deep connection to the emo music that got me this far in life, I really do love Goodbye a lot. Butterfly builds an intensity throughout its runtime, starting off almost like a ballad before the swooping chorus comes in to throw you off your feet. It's really, really good. If you've watched any of my other monthly reviews, then you'll know that musically this was right up my alley, so of course I greatly enjoyed listening to this. And like I said at the start, I'm really happy that Yuta finally got to have this moment to shine as a soloist and to showcase what he's fully got. appendix of all we have lost. Listen, if you haven't stand Billy yet, it's never too late to start. I feel like you're missing out on so much good music if you don't listen to them, but you can do whatever you want. I just strongly advise that you stop everything that you're doing and give this album and maybe their whole discography a listen if you haven't yet. Anyways, Remembrance Candy starts out somewhat bright with a keyboard and some really cute, kind of clanky percussion ornamentations. It gives the song a slightly mystical vibe that's carried over by the jazzy chorus. The more I listen to the song, the more I become obsessed with the details in its instrumentation. The little flares that echo in the song, creating a rich atmosphere even in moments where the song is more minimal in production, so you're completely immersed the whole time. The girls' vocals also add to this as they're overlaid with echoes and harmonies. The chorus to go with a jazzier take on a K-pop song works really well. It energizes and brightens the song, but also adds a bit of that sophistication and a unique touch that you don't hear in a lot of K-pop title tracks. I am so obsessed with this song. This might be the best title track that Billy have released yet, although that's kind of difficult to say definitively since all of their title tracks have offered something completely unique in sound and concept. Trampoline builds up perfectly from its verses to pre-chorus to chorus. The verses have slightly less melodic instrumentals, with mostly beat and little ornamentations behind the girls. The pre-chorus then adds layers of keys and synth and just pure atmosphere before the chorus jumps in, once again with slightly more staccato instrumentals that pop behind the girls' vocals. Trampoline is overall so dreamy and pretty, especially in the bridge with all of the vocals behind Haram, and then the outro that brings so much energy with faster-paced vocals and raps. I really appreciate how layered the song is. It's a treat to listen to. Blue Rose is slightly more tethered to reality, with less synth and more piano and beats. It also features a very jazzy instrumental, very relaxing and layered behind the vocals. With Suga and Chiyun's raps behind a slightly more energetic instrumental, it feels simultaneously like it's coming out of nowhere, but it also suits the song so well. Blue Rose concludes by doing one of my favorite things. It's just instrumental to let you appreciate the mood of the song before fading out for the next track. Back to the Basics is more intense and punchy, with a louder instrumental and stronger delivery of vocals and raps. It still has the magical touch that you'd expect from a Billy song, but with a more assertive, I want to say almost royal vibe. From first listen, I was really looking forward to seeing them perform this song, especially Xion and Shun. Shame is my song, I'm claiming it, no one gets it like I get it. They released this for me and me only. There's a slight groove from the bass with gorgeous background harmonies behind the main vocals. There's also a little synth line that's scattered behind the chorus that I find so charming. The energy and pace of the song builds up really subtly but so perfectly. You find yourself getting completely carried away by the song. The emotions brought forward by the lyrics and the more low-key line delivery just hits in a way that I can't really describe, you just have to feel it for yourself. Dream Diary combines the slightly stronger beat from Back to the Basics with airy, dreamy vocals to create just an absolutely magical atmosphere. You're flying through clouds and you're going through these anime magical girl transformations and you're just living in a fantasy when you listen to Dream Diary. In their own right, every song on this mini-album is the best song. I feel like I say this whenever I listen to any Billy album, but this might be the best album they've released yet, I don't know. The B-sides are similar enough to what we'd expect from them usually in terms of quality and overall vibe, but the details and production of their songs change enough from album to album that I'm always really excited to listen to their new releases. We were waiting for an OT7 comeback for so long, and I'm so happy that this is as good as it is. As much as the drought of the past year kind of hurt, I'm glad that they waited until all 7 girls were ready before they delivered another album. This was fully worth the wait in my eyes.
The night before falling out of where we know love is. 어떤 말로도 풀리지 않는 엉켜버린 story. 너무 아플 것 같은 마지막에 남겨두기. Let's just live it tonight.
Extraordinary Heroes, Live and Fall. So, I am very predictable, and of course the moment that this album was announced, I knew that it would be my favorite of the month, and potentially one of my favorites of the whole year. Extraordinary Heroes always live up to my expectations, most of the times they even completely surpass them, and Live and Fall is no exception to that. I've been keeping up with and discussing the pre-release open beta series of singles this summer, and seeing everything come together for this mini-album has been really rewarding. I think that all of the songs on this tracklist are absolutely excellent, and I've had a hard time picking favorites, and I will likely also have a hard time articulating exactly why I like these songs as much as I do, but I hope that you will listen to my efforts. Let's start. XH World 75 is a nice instrumental track to open up the album, with a great guitar performance acting as the emotional hook of the song, backed up of course by the other members of the band. The song is basically a little bit of preparation for the emotion-laden first half of the mini-album. Night Before the End is their first ballad title track after a run of phenomenal ballads like Good Enough and Until the End of Time serving as B-sides. The song stays pretty slow the whole time, with vocal lines being drawn out and forcing the listener to really sink into the song's emotions. Juyeon does such an incredible job of just putting on a raw emotional display every time he sings. He really stands out a lot on the song, both in the moments where he sings softer and quieter, but also when he has to open up and belt a little bit. Jungsu also does a great job. He sounds a little bit less emotionally raw than Juyeon does, but he nonetheless delivers exactly what he needs to. I feel like the song easily could have been like 5 minutes long if they threw in another instrumental break in between the final two choruses, but even at its current 3.5-minute length, the song fully delivers the emotions that it has to in a delicate, masterfully built-up manner. I think I mentioned in my initial look at Save Me that I didn't anticipate myself listening to it super often because I wasn't in the mood to just deal with my emotions multiple times a day, but this song has been appearing on shuffle a lot for me recently, and I haven't minded that at all. Compared to Night Before the End, it's a bit more intensely emotional, giving you less space to linger with your emotions and instead kind of forcing you to work through everything with the song's faster pace pushing you through everything. Despite its lyrics and overall themes, the melody of Save Me is surprisingly fun to listen to and sing along to, which makes the song easily addictive and a great add to a variety of playlists in my opinion. Boy Comics changes the mood of the album to something slightly brighter after the emotion-laden Night Before the End and Save Me. The song still has some heavier themes to potentially work through, but it accomplishes that work with a notable pep in its step and a lot of infectious energy from this unrelenting pace and bright synths that accompany everything. It's probably the brightest and most colorful song on the album, with the hopeful energy that you'd expect to accompany an anime protagonist at the start of their show. Everything about Boy Comics just fills me with so much energy. It's a song that I put on basically whenever I need to find the strength to get through something that I don't have the energy to deal with on my own. Instead, takes the energy from Boy Comics and twists it into something rougher and darker in sound. Boy Comics' hope turns into a kind of anger, starting out loud but getting louder for an incredibly catchy chorus. Like with Night Before the End, I feel like an even longer instrumental bridge would have been even more fun to listen to, and it really would have been cool to hear what Junan and Gunnel could cook up to deliver the song's rage just through their instrumentals, but the end product of Instead is still very cathartic as it currently is. Feeling Nice takes Instead's unapologetic anger and turns it into a brash confidence, making almost as much noise but seemingly having worked through the rage that consumed the prior song. Feeling Nice uses clangy percussion and echoey vocals in front of synths and guitars to create a unique soundscape that plays around with the listener. The way the song slows down before abruptly getting back on track in the second verse is really cool. It highlights the song's message by refusing to be predictable and sticking to doing whatever it finds most satisfactory. If Feeling Nice plays with the listener, Symphony seems to completely disregard them. It feels entirely self-indulgent, a completely hedonistic display that just does not care whether or not it's particularly palatable to anyone but itself. The chorus feels kind of chaotic and hard to keep up with loud vocals almost overpowered by the keys and drums. The guitars and synths almost completely drowned out while Jungsu and Juyeon are singing. Symphony combines theatrical musical elements with Extraordinary Hero's signature rock sound to create an interesting and at times overwhelming sound that I can't help but to keep returning to. The real star is definitely Jungsu and his piano work. He opens the song and has an immensely impressive showcase in the bridge that gives the listener a brief break from the song's turmoil before the final chorus comes swinging in like a right hook to the face. For me right now, Symphony kind of acts as Extraordinary Hero's magnum opus, a bold display of their skill and an unapologetic message that they will keep doing what they're doing without a care for what the response will be. Love and Fear had been, prior to my first listen of Symphony, my new favorite Extraordinary Hero song. Its darker sound and lyrics very easily appeal to My Chemical Romance-influenced brain, and once again I have to highlight what a great job the members do in completely devoting themselves to the concepts of their songs. In both vocal and instrumental delivery, all of the members sound desperate and lost for the song's runtime, like they really are at the mercy of the person that's brought up in the song, whether that's a toxic romance or potentially even a commentary on fan-idol relationships. The song gets intense, with unrelating drums and guitars powering through for the song's runtime, and scarcely a moment for either the listener or the members to come up for breath. It's pretty much a perfect song, in my opinion, and I think had the members clearly not been so intent on delivering a ballad title track, I think this would have been a very easy song to market as an October title track. This entire album really was just an indulgent display of Extraordinary Heroes' abilities to deliver in both technical skill and emotional devastation. None of these songs were half-assed, all concepts behind the music were fully thought out and fully delivered. Live and Fall just affirmed to me why Extraordinary Heroes is my favorite group, maybe even my favorite musical artist of all time. Watching and listening to them grow since debut has been so incredibly, truly amazing, and as I'm heaping praises onto these songs, I can't help but to remember how much I've loved their prior albums as well, and how they continuously outdo themselves. In this moment, I have no idea how they could ever outdo the songs on this album, but I also have no doubt that Extraordinary Heroes will continue to surprise me. To me, they really are a one-of-a-kind musical artist at the moment.